President Obama has said we need a civilian force that is as highly trained and as well funded as our U.S. military for domestic purposes. Why is that? I sat down and talked to David Horowitz. He's a reformed 1960s radical and former communist.
Well, Barack Obama is an ideologue. He comes out of a left that has been trying to get power in this country for half a century. And this is their best chance to do it. And the army he's speaking of is only one of many armies. When he appoints an avowed communist, a guy who was arrested in a race riot against...
Hang on just a second, because I want to make sure. They're not throwing around the word communist. Your parents were communists.
This guy says he's a communist.
Yeah, I know that. But just so so people who don't know, your parents were communists?
Yeah, my parents were card-carrying communists.
Card-carrying communists. You were a 1960s radical.
That's
you
right.
were part of. You were cut from this cloth.
I was cut from a movement, the 1960s movement of radicals, which is now running the show, was begun by children of communists. They were all children of communists to revive the communist movement.
All right. So, as a former communist and a guy raised by communists, not only has he said it, but what gives you the, what are the earmarks of not just a communist, a radical communist like Van Jones?
You can't call yourself a communist 3 years after the Berlin Wall fell and not understand what went on in communism and not support it. That is, for the left sees everything that the left does that's a crime. They say the capitalists did it. The devil made me do it. This is the way, like with Fidel Castro, he has bankrupted his country, he's a lunatic, but what they do is they blame it on the United States. So when I see a guy who calls himself a communist, who has organized a revolutionary movement, it's called Storm, to organize a revolutionary movement, and writes books in which white people and corporations are pure evil. This was paradise America before white people came and ruined it. I know in my gut, because I was there, what's going on. These people want to destroy the system that we live under and create their fantasy. Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen anything like it. We have an actual communist. We have people who want to put sterilants in drinking water. We have a socialist whose name now has been removed. We have czars with gathering power. We have the AFL-CIO now as the head of the chair, the head of the Fed in New York. We have SEIU using their muscles. We have activists like Acorn actually having an audience with the president. You got no Tea Party people could meet with the president. And yet, people in America still want to give people the benefit of the doubt and say, it's a mistake.
It's the great thing about this country. Everybody gets a second and a third chance, but it's becoming increasingly dangerous with these people. You have to take them at their word. What we're seeing here is what I have called, I wrote a book about it called The Shadow Party, which has been put together by George Soros. So you get billionaires, you get unions, radical unions. The head of the SEIU is an old SDS radical with a Leninist perspective. And you get street radicals. And Soros put them together in a coalition. And you see it embodied in a Van Jones, a street radical who graduated from Yale Law School and who's a protege of the Center for American Progress, which is run by Clinton's former Chief of Staff, John Podesta. That alliance was put together about 5 years ago. And what you are seeing unfold now are the plans that Soros laid for the 2004 election. He was defeated then. Bush unexpectedly won.
Tell me, David, when you hear, it sounds crazy. And it's almost like these things are ghosts. It's like you're chasing ghosts. Well, okay, so he was in Storm, big deal, that's over. Now he's in the Apollo Alliance. There's a lot of credible people there, credible businesses.
Yeah.
The Center for American Progress. I mean, it's John Podesta. He's worked at the White House.
The Apollo Alliance is a broad coalition to advance very radical agendas, and it includes very respectable businessmen, power's in the Democratic Party, but its muscle is unions and radicals. And it was created out of Rob Borisage, Center for the American Future. Borisage is an old SDS radical. When you become disillusioned with the left and you see its destructive agendas and you see the way it supports America's enemies abroad and you see the way it doesn't really advance the interests of poor people or black people in America, when you become disillusioned, you turn and because you're a very political person, you want to tell other people. And that's been my career and other people like me. But it's not Van Jones' career, and it's not Rob Borisage's. They buy the agenda still. They are still seeking to overthrow this system and to create a socialist future.
You think the President of the United States, Barack Obama, has that agenda?
Absolutely. I have no doubt about it. You have to see where he came from. First of all, he was an operative for Acorn. He's out of the Alinsky School. He worked for the Gamaliel Foundation.
He'd say that's politics of the past.
That's nonsense. People don't change overnight. Who changes overnight?
He said, well...
besides Arianna Huffington. I mean, this is not what people do. I mean, you know, people are committed. This is a moral thing for people. When you are a radical, you believe that you are in the army of the saints, a righteous person. And it's immoral. And if I've just read actually Van Jones' book, The Green Economy, and you can see he defends himself against people who say he's selling out. That's the big thing you can't do. If you sell out, then you become vilified. I mean, I'm just totally vilified on the left. So everybody in the left understands. I don't want to be a sellout. It's actually something I said to myself when I was young. So you could always tell when a radical has changed because they tell you they're changed and they understand what's wrong with the left. And what's wrong with the left is its agendas, what it actually does, not what it says, but what it does.
Do you think Barack Obama is the architect or the anointed one?
I think Barack Obama is the anointed one. I think that these agendas are being driven by people like Soros and Rahm Emanuel. I think that Obama, this is what he wants. I mean, I made a mistake with Obama. I thought he was going to be smart like Clinton. And I thought he was going to understand that America is a country you have to govern from the center. And he would be to the left of center. But I didn't think he was going to empower Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid to drive a steamroller over the country and bankrupt it.
I said, I was at the Time 100, and I'm sitting there at Van Jones is there, sitting at this big table. And, I'm the only one there with my philosophy. And I said, let me ask you this. Agree or disagree with the president? Forget about the policy. Has anybody stopped to think what America looks like at the end of 4 years with just the changes that have been proposed and put into place right now? Has anybody done that? The silence was deafening.
It's all instrumental. That is, when you're a radical, what you are thinking of is power. It's about power. You adopt this position, you take up that issue, but it's all to advance the power. They never think about what it's going to look like or how to put it together. I can tell you, a radical never spends 5 seconds on thinking what makes a society work. That's not the way they work. They want to know what they can get away with to advance this big agenda, which is you get power and you change everything.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
That's the way they think.